All right, everyone. Welcome to today's masterclass on inventory management within DecoNetwork. I'm your host, Zach Dewhurst, the Business Development Manager at DecoNetwork. When it comes to product inventory, there's a couple things to clear up from the beginning. There is two types of inventory. There is on-hand inventory. That is inventory that we have input that we say that we physically have ourselves. And then there is supplier inventory. So if a supplier has live inventory capabilities, we can take advantage of using their stock levels to prevent ourselves from selling a product out of stock. Is it perfect? No. Is it pretty good? Oh, it's excellent. Way less headaches than 10 years ago when we didn't have that capability. So, first thing to know is where to manage inventory. And this can be a little confusing because it's all over the place. If you're in Business Hub and you come down to the bottom, you have your inventory on hand. And if you search for an item, you can pull up that product, all of the SKUs. So every color and size combination, look at the inventory and even update it. So you can update inventory within Business Hub. If you come into products, you can come into an individual product, come into the SKU and inventory settings. As long as you enable inventory, you can then input these inventory levels. You can also select a group of products, apply a bulk action, export inventory levels, and that'll export a CSV that you can then update. And then you can come over here and import inventory levels. So there's several different ways and places that you can update inventory on hand. First, though, let's back up to supplier inventory just to make sure we're all on the same page how that works. So if we come over to supplier account details and we see supplier inventory levels, if it's not available, then it's not available. But if it's available and not set up, um, or in my case with Sanmar, it's in use, that is because I have input my Sanmar account credentials down here. So you have to have your account credentials and working. At that point, you can actually come into the inventory settings. And here within inventory settings is where we can take advantage really of those inventory levels as far as preventing ourselves from selling a product out of stock. Just putting in our account information there doesn't actually stop the customer necessarily from buying a product out of stock. We need to set it here. So we can allow the customer to buy something that is technically out of stock from a supplier. We can not allow adding to cart in which they're checking only inventory on hand, or we're checking inventory on hand and supplier inventory. And what that allows us to do is to create a buffer here. So, you know, instead of saying zero is out of stock, because anybody who orders from a supplier, once they get to the bottom of the barrel, they're it's just two people could be ordering the same product at the same time on the site and then it's gone. So I like to put a buffer and let's say, hey, if the supplier has less than 10 of this SKU, of this product in this color and size combination, we're going to view it as out of stock and we are not going to allow the customer to purchase it. And this will also come into play on Business Hub. Just because we're here as well, this is where we can decide the low stock inventory behavior and displaying the actual stock levels. So we'll go over this in just a minute. So again, supplier inventory, get the account hooked up. Probably want to come in here, create a buffer to help yourself. All right, another set of settings. Again, this is why it's kind of complicated. Come down here into settings, purchase order settings, and scroll to the bottom. And you have to look at inventory and purchase orders are connected. When we need to raise a purchase order, when we don't have a product on hand, when we don't have inventory for it, when we do have inventory for a product, we want to bypass the purchase order phase because instead of buying the blank product, we need to go pull it off the shelf. So here in the purchase order settings, we need to decide what the inventory behavior is. Do we want to use inventory on order to fulfill new orders? The first time I read this over a year ago, I'm like, what the heck does that mean? Use inventory on order. This means you can use inventory in which you've raised a PO, but you've yet to receive the stock. That way, if you are replenishing your stock and that stock is en route already, instead of raising another PO, we're going to use it as if we're going to pull from that stock that's already on its way. And then here, when allocated items to stock, turn on inventory on item if needed. So if we raise a PO, and that could be from scratch, or it could be with a combination of another order. But if we are raising a PO with blank products that are not against a order, or they are surplus products that we need for an order, that will then be added as inventory on hand. Okay. So, oh, and right here, obviously, just like I said, what do we want to do when we raise a purchase order when we have that overage surplus? Okay. So those are where we configure our different settings. Within settings, purchase order settings, within products, supplier count details, inventory settings. All right, so let's update a product with some inventory. Let's use the DT6000. And let's do this. Let's go into the inventory. Let's enable the inventory. And when we enable the inventory, we can then say what our new stock level is. Once I save this product, this new stock level will become the inventory on hand. The low stock warning. With this, we can essentially email ourselves or whoever's a staff account and has this access to be told, hey, we're getting low on this stock. We need to order more. And when we order more, this is what it's going to be. So once we get underneath our low stock warning and we need to raise a PO to replenish, this is the amount we're going to reorder. And then we have our location. Where is this inventory? You know, what's the bin and so forth. Something I highly suggest doing really always. Take advantage of DecoNetwork's really well organized help articles that are constantly being updated. So right here we have our inventory settings. So just like I was talking about, we can control what all the inventory is able to do when we're out of stock. Here, and we'll talk about inventory in a second. Inventory, sorry, wrong help article. But yeah, if you wonder what do these terms mean and so forth, just come up here, search the help articles, and you're going to see a lot of different things on inventory. Okay, so I can clearly update those inventory levels, but for right now, what I would prefer to do is I'm going to select these unisex t-shirts. Let's just do these best-selling t-shirts. And what I'll do is I'll use this export inventory levels, apply action. And what it's going to do is it's going to export a CSV. Anytime we want to import inventory levels, we really need to first do an export. I mean, it's practically impossible to get the format you need it to be. Okay, that's fine. So here is our CSV. And what I'm going to do is come down to the DT 6000 in here, which is going to be kind of far. At least. All right. So let's just use this light turquoise color. And if we're going to import inventory levels, the first thing that's really important is this I row. You need to make it a 1. Look at it this way. 0 is inventory is off. 1, inventory is on. You've got to do that. Got to make it a 1. And then let's see. Inventory on hand. This we're going to update row K. And I'm not going to worry about inventory location. Sorry, I've already forgot where that was. So we made that a 1, row K. And we're going to say, hey, we have 20 on hand of medium and large. And I'm going to make sure I make this a CSV. Okay. Come back, import inventory levels, start new import. Next, we'll choose our file. We'll upload that. Click next. Doesn't matter that I'm inventory updating a bunch of products that didn't have any inventory changes. It's only applying updates to the products SKUs that need their numbers adjusted. Continue. Okay, you can see it's updated our 2 SKUs. So again, I updated the medium and large for the turquoise. And again, when I was doing that, if I only put 20 here and I didn't update this, it's not going to update anything. I must, this is what actually turns inventory on to then accept this number. Okay, finish. Okay, and now we'll go back to our products. We'll look at the DT 6000. And fingers crossed I didn't screw that up. So inventory, enable inventory for this product. Come down. Where was our turquoise? Right there. You can see. So it's turned on. And we now, because I first put 20 on hand, or yeah, that became the new inventory level became the on hand. Now, let's have some fun with this. And let's also say, gosh, this is a little harder here. Let's say the low stock warning. So once we get under 15, okay, so once we have under 15, we want to order another 5. Okay. And let's go ahead and save this. Before we save it, I just want you to also see we can choose to make this a close out product. And I'll demonstrate what that means. It's essentially what it sounds like. Once we're out of that stock, we're out of the stock. We're not going to let the customer keep replenishing. We don't care what the inventory settings are. One thing we can do on the um, site is actually make it possible for the customer to see inventory on hand. This is not supplier inventory. This is on hand inventory. So every blank product will go through the product view blank product details page, unless you're bypassing it and the customer's going straight to the design tool. What you can do if you click on here is you can show inventories level link. And you can see right here, view inventory availability. So if we preview this page and I go to my DT 6000 t-shirts and I click view inventory availability, you can see there's my light turquoise. Now I'm looking at the supplier inventory, so it really means nothing that we have that to the customer. It only means something to us to not raise a PO. But back to what I was just saying, we can make this a closeout item, which is essentially, hey, this is all we have left. Once it's gone, it's gone. I don't want to show the customer options that are really unavailable. So by making it a closeout, only the available colors in which we have stock for and the actual size in this case. So we'll refresh. Turquoise, only medium and large, because that's what we actually physically have. And there's really, again, no reason to have that if we're just going to be out of stock. Well, no, it definitely does make sense. I know a lot of people are probably asking, can I just show these inventory levels? At the moment, it's just a link. I do think it's maybe possible with custom code. Can't say for sure. But right now it is a link. And Chris, you can confirm here in just a little bit, but I do not know of a way to show inventory with pre-decorated products. It only is blanks at the moment, at least from a setting standpoint. Okay, let's go back to our product. Let's not make it a closeout. So SKU. Let's not make it a closeout. All right, so let's go to Business Hub. Let's refresh. And let's make an order in which we need to pull from some of that stock. So let's create an order, add new order. So we'll add a new product. Again, we'll make it the DT 6000. And there's our light turquoise. If you actually click on the size quantity, you can see the inventory here that you have on hand. So, and then obviously the supplier inventory. Supplier inventory is not updated every minute of the day. It's updated at least once a day. I can tell you if I go to the supplier's site, I can buy product that they say they have on hand and they don't. But I'm telling you, this works beautifully, but just don't think that it's up to the second. It would kill our servers and theirs. So let's say that, hey, the customer needs 10 medium, 5 large, or no, 25 large and 5 XL. Now, before I do that, let's go back to the inventory and I want to look at what my reorder numbers were. Okay. So at 15, we have it being a low stock inventory warning, and it's going to order an extra 5. Okay. So let's actually make this, 10 and 25 and 5. So what we're going to need to do is we're not going to need to order any mediums. We're going to need to raise a PO for not only 5 larges, but another 5 or, well, we'll see 5 or 15 more so that we actually have that on hand. And then we're going to need to order these other 5. So let's go ahead and click OK, save order. Okay, awaiting PO, so we can just raise a PO. All right, so you can see we're going to order our 5 larges and our 5 extra larges. Yeah, we needed 5 and then already allocated 20. Okay, but why aren't we ordering more? We've gone past our low stock behavior. Let's just finish this test. First thing I want to show you guys though is 1, we only ordered what we actually didn't have on hand. Now, if we had not needed to raise a PO, we would have just skipped the purchase order phase. And I think that's kind of confusing because there's nothing truly telling you you need to download a pull sheet. And it's not obvious where to download the pull sheet. So if you are pulling stock and you're not raising a PO for that order, what you want to do within the order itself, production, inventory, pull sheet. So this would have told us, hey, we need to grab these 10 and 20 shirts. And then we're going to order the other 5 large and the 5 XL. And you can see how it's split of, hey, we've received, or essentially we have some of these on hand. We need to get the last quarter. And then, hey, we got to get all these extra large. Okay. So let's create a new order. Actually, let's finish this order. I have one more demo for you guys. Okay, so we'll refresh just to look at this inventory back here. Or, the problem with managing the inventory back here and then being in Business Hub, I'm going to have to refresh here. So probably why, Chris, they put it over here. So let's pull up the DT 6000. We'll use black. Okay. So extra small. We currently have 10 and low stock is 5 and we need to order another 20 when we get to the low stock. So let's save that. So let's put together an order in which we're going to order 6. So we're under that 5 and then it should trigger a PO for an extra 20. So add new order. Choose me again. DT 6000. This time we'll do black. Why didn't that update, Chris? There's DT 6000. Well, let's go ahead and refresh it. All right, so there's our inventory in hand. So let's say we order 6. And remember, anything under 5 on hand, so we're going to have 4 on hand, is going to trigger that we raise a PO, not for an additional 20. So we have that on hand. So we'll click OK. We'll click save. Raise the PO. We'll raise a new one. And oh, sorry. I used a different customer than that customer was on a batch store. Switch it back over. Raise a purchase order. That's just that one. Sorry, guys. I do.
Yeah, so I think if you
Yeah,
go
Chris,
to,
this worked earlier when I did it. It should have triggered another 20 to be bought. Yeah, what am I doing wrong?
well, when you do raise purchase order from the order, it's only including the items for that order. So if you go just into the general purchase order section,
Yeah, start with an
choose
empty
Sanmar.
purchase order. Okay.
Not empty, but choose Sanmar from the list of suppliers.
Sorry,
Mhm.
guys. Yep, that's why it kept like, hey, do you want to merge? The consequences of not clicking a button. And there was my other turquoise example. So, guys, again, remember what I did? I ordered 6. So I was underneath the, hey, this is the low stock warning threshold of 5. So it's having me order another 16 of it so that we replenish our stock. So we'll save that. And that will not update the inventory on hand, at least correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, until we've actually received those items. So it's not, it's on order. So here's a cool thing. I mean, this is where Deco kicks some butt with the inventory management, because I can create a new order and I'm going to use that same DT6000 and I'm going to say, hey, you know what? For this order, I need another 6 extra smalls. Now, according to this, inventory on hand is 4, but we have an extra bundle of shirts coming. So as long as we have that setting configured the way we do, this is going to skip a PO because we are looking at it as, hey, this is on its way. You have the extra small, sorry, I left the medium in there, but this has already been ordered. So when I come here to that other purchase order and I receive stock of it, I'm effectively receiving the stock for that other order that we needed to pull from. Lots of jumping around, but yeah, that'll be complete because we actually have that inventory on hand. So let's recap it all, guys. 1, supplier inventory versus inventory on hand. Keep them separate. Where to manage inventory within Business Hub, within a product, through import and export bulk actions. To manage the settings, supplier account details, you need that, and the supplier must have live inventory capabilities. You're going to then typically want to come into these inventory settings and set the out of stock behavior and low stock warning. Within these settings themselves, we have purchase order settings, and you have a couple inventory settings down here to affect when we're raising a PO, when we don't have it against a product, and so forth, or an order. Chris, anything else that I'm kind of missing? I'm sure there's some questions that are about to be asked, but anything else do you think I should have covered that I didn't?
No, that was a pretty good summary. I mean, I have some kind of couple of points to make just based on frequent support queries around
Okay.
the topic of inventory. One of the ones we get quite frequently is how do I see a list of everything that I have inventory on hand, right? So how do I see what I have on hand? So if you go into the product section under advanced search, there is a filter for inventory tracking. So if you set that to enable, that'll at least filter down to just the items that have inventory tracking enabled. And so that cuts down the length of that export, to
Yeah.
just products that could have inventory. And so that export will run a lot quicker than if try to export inventory levels for your,
Yep.
8,000 products. So that'll make it a little bit quicker. Um, and I guess one of the other pretty frequent questions that we get, or support queries that we get, um, is from members who essentially have unknowingly set inventory on hand, right? So they say, I had this order for 10 shirts. The PO only raised 6. 4 were raised from inventory, but I don't have 4 in inventory. So why did those pull from inventory if I don't have inventory? And so that's the case where, again, they're unknowingly setting that inventory on hand amount. Um, and I'm sure maybe you have some feedback, from kind of the operations side on a shop, but typically the way I think our members are running into that is, um, let's say they have an order for 100 shirts. Maybe they want to account for some wastage or imperfections on product that may come in, and so they order an extra 4.
Yep.
When you're increasing the amount to order that isn't required by an order, you're actually allocating that to stock. So if I only needed 100 but I ordered 110, those 10 are going to go to inventory. And again, that happens, I think, in some cases unknowingly. Um, and so, any future order that needs that same product will pull from that inventory that was set due to that overage that was included on the purchase order. So this setting at the bottom of this page kind of controls that. When allocating to stock, if a product doesn't have inventory tracking enabled, the system will go ahead and turn it on. That's a bit of a double-edged sword. I think you generally want that on, but you want to know that it's on, and you have to be aware that, again, if you're increasing the quantity on order, that's going to go to inventory. And it is also something that we'll be addressing in a future update, having the ability to include quantities on a PO that are not allocated to the order, but are also not going to allocate to stock. They're essentially going to go
Yep.
untracked. And that's useful for cases like that, where maybe you just want to order an extra 5 for that same order. You don't need them for the order. The customer only ordered 100, but you want 105 just to have some spares. And eventually, if you don't end up using them, you can put them back to inventory. But I've heard that it's more common to actually, maybe you just produce the extra 5 and you just kind of throw them in with
Yeah.
the order because you had the extras.
What about, let's say we raise a PO and we receive the PO, we've yet to complete the order, but then the customer contacts us and they want to reduce the order quantity and we let them, and we update the order invoice. Like, how does that affect quantity in stock?
Yeah, so that's the drop down right above that section there that you're on, the purchase order overage behavior. So if you've already allocated quantities to an order, they're already on a PO that's been placed with the supplier, so they're already coming, but you end up lowering the quantity on the order. This allows you to choose what you want to do. So do you want to um, actually edit the purchase order to remove that quantity so that you don't end up ordering them? That would be the case if the PO has not yet been sent. You could still, it's early enough where you can remove those if you don't need them. But again, if it's already been sent, it's too late, and those will allocate to stock.
Okay, cool. All right, any other pointers for us?
Those are the big ones. Again, that we get through the support side. We'll see if we get any additional questions here coming through the chat or any of the attendees.
Yeah, so one of the questions, and this is kind of common, is that, they sometimes in a perfect world, we could look at all of our suppliers that carry the same product and look at inventory potentially and pricing and then determine who to purchase from. But the problem is, Chris, they all it wouldn't be possible, but every supplier has different product codes. So the G640 from Alpha is the 64,000 from Sanmar, and Sanmar has different sizes and color combinations. So it is not possible to look at inventory across all suppliers. That way, you could say, hey, I'm going to order these sizes from this this supplier, these sizes and colors from this supplier, so that I am able to complete the order. No, that's just not possible. Is there a way to confirm that the stock was pulled, or is this something on the horizon? So that's a good question, and that's why I'm pushing Chris, is that that the purchase order step is really, to me, have we pulled or purchased inventory? To me, yeah, that this would be purchase versus pull. And we have purchase orders and we have pull. And just like with a purchase order, we've ordered and received. That's how a purchase pull would work. Technically, it's not possible yet. The way you have to do it is potentially through production statuses. That's the way I've seen it be done. But there's no way to set a production status based on if the order actually needed anything pulled or not. That I can't create that if statement. So Chris, I don't think I'm missing anything. Um, it is something I think needs to be addressed in a future update. If I'm being really blunt, it is not terribly obvious, guys, to know when to pull something. I mean, it's really
Yeah,
not.
yeah, that's definitely an area for possible improvement there.
So yeah, Brian, you're not missing anything, but on the horizon, I'm gonna bug Chris until it happens. Is there a way to have your PO let you know where the stock is going? Um, let you know where the stock is going. Chris, what do you think that is? Like against an order?
So if you open up one of those purchase orders that you have there,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this is addressing it, but you can expand each
Yep.
SKU, and that will show you, whether quantity is going to an order, to stock.
Yeah.
So it gives you the breakdown of where the quantity breaks down to.
Yep. That's what I got. Um, and Brian, I'll tell you, here's a tip that I have. I really like to download my production worksheets as a batch, as one PDF, but I'm doing that based on the supplier PO number. So by doing that, I've got a stack of worksheets that correlate with that purchase order that's coming in. And on the outside of that box, I should see this number, and I've got my pile of worksheets that correspond with it. All right, Brian, again, for instance, we stock G800 in black and Bay 2A. It seems that when we receive, it doesn't list the location. The location, Chris, I think is only going to be shown on the pull sheet. I do know it's on that pull sheet. I don't know if we have any. I didn't actually put the location in there, but you can see the location is on there. Chris, is it possible to grab that variable and put it somewhere else? Or again, do they really just need to be downloading the pull sheet to see it?
I would imagine you could modify the purchase order document to include that placeholder value.
Okay. Um, but that only, again, you wouldn't want to do that because you're going to skip the PO phase. There would be no PO if you have the inventory in hand. But yeah, Brian, inventory pull sheet. I don't know. I think actually, Chris, what you were saying, sorry, is I would put it on the production worksheet. So yeah, find that variable in that document and you can put it on here within extra options. I'm sure there's a way to update the code. It's way over my pay grade. But if we come into the order templates, you have the order worksheet, but back here you also have this pull sheet. And you can find that variable in here. And there's also a help article on all the list of variables such as inventory location. Okay. Any other questions? Chris, am I correct though about it is not possible to currently account for inventory on pre-decorated products? I know we can't change inventory within a store, but we just can't display the inventory availability on a pre-decorated, correct?
That's right. Yeah,
Okay.
and that's because, inventory is just tracked against the blank.
Yeah.
There's kind of a workaround that people use where, they'll create a copy
Clone.
of a blank.
Yep.
And, the inventory set against that is the inventory of the decorated product that will be built on top of that blank. So yeah, it's kind of a workaround, but that's why we don't display inventory for decorated products. There's no true decorated product inventory.
Okay. And I am correct about supplier inventory is updated daily?
Once a day, that's right.
Once a day. Yep. Yeah, and that buffer is something I highly suggest anybody out there. It'll really help you. Now, Chris, if we're creating an order or a quote in Business Hub, does it actually stop the staff member from selling a product out of stock, or does it just warn us?
I believe it should just warn you. So
Okay,
you'll
that's
get a
what I thought.
warning.
We could break the rule.
That's right.
All right, Chris. Well, I don't see any other questions. I must have explained it so well. Um, well, thanks everyone for joining, and thanks Chris for joining us as well. And we'll catch you guys in a couple weeks. I think the next topic will revolve around store in stock designs, how to make it easy interface for your customers to select a design and then a product with a focus on design templates. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.